Hello, my name is CL Lindsay. I'm the author of The College Student's Guide to the Law, and I'm an expert in higher education legal issues. I've spent the last 15 years traveling to colleges all across the country, teaching students about their legal rights and responsibilities while they're at school. Using plain language, real-world examples, and humor, I use pictures of action figures to illustrate legal philosophies. By the way, I know that sounds hokey, but it totally works. I've taught tens of thousands of students about things like throwing safe in legal parties, sexual assault, and staying safe online. Now this fall, it's not like any we've ever seen, and it's brought with it a whole slew of new legal issues that impact students. To that end, I've put together an entirely new talk, College, COVID, and the Law. It answers some of the basic legal questions students might have as they return to campus or begin to take classes online. Like, how do liability waivers work? Can my school discipline me, including removal from housing or expulsion for violating social distancing rules? Spoiler alert, they totally can. What happens if I throw or attend a party right now? What are my rights as an employee when I go back to work? I'll also give some advice on how to navigate coursework and the professor-student relationship during COVID, and I'll give some practical tips about being on campus during the coronavirus era, like keeping a COVID go bag packed. And finally, in a time when everything is moving online, I think this is crucial. I'll talk to students about how they can protect and manage their online personas. Just like everything else right now, these issues are evolving and the outcomes are emerging. That's a fancy way of me saying, first, the content of this lecture will change as new problems arise, and second, we won't know the absolute answers to some of these legal questions until there's a lawsuit that goes before a judge. But we can make some pretty good predictions based on past law. For example, some people are wondering if the government or a private entity can require them to wear a mask. The short answer is, of course they can. Still, lots of people right now are claiming they have some sort of legal justification to not mask up in public. They say things like it's a violation of their liberty or their privacy. No one's sued yet to assert their right to go maskless in a Walmart, but the situation and the legal justifications being put forward are strikingly similar to all the lawsuits that were brought by smokers when smoking bans started emerging back in the 80s. In those suits, the smokers rested on one of two legal arguments. They said that, one, the smoking bans violated their Fifth Amendment right to liberty, or two, that they violated the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, because smokers said they were being affected differently than non-smokers. Therefore, they thought the law wasn't treating them equally. That's what Greg Grusendorf argued when he sued the city of Oklahoma in 1984. He had been a firefighter trainee, and as a part of that program, he agreed that he wouldn't smoke, both on and off duty, for the duration of that training and for a year after. He was out to lunch after what he said was a really stressful morning. He lit a cigarette, he took 3 puffs, then put it out. Now, another city employee happened to be nearby, and they saw him smoke. They reported that to the station, and Grusendorf was summarily fired. He sued, saying that smoking ban violated his constitutional rights. The court, they threw Grusendorf's case out. They said, citing a long-standing legal standard, that so long as any law or regulation has a rational relation to a legitimate government purpose, it can stand. And of course, keeping firefighters from smoking met that standard. The judge said, we need look no further for a legitimate purpose and rational connection than the Surgeon General's warning on the side of every box of cigarettes sold in this country that cigarette smoking is hazardous to health. It's a really short logical leap from that case to any case challenging mask mandates that might come up today. So it's a really safe bet that any court would see requiring people to wear masks as rationally related to the legitimate government interest of curbing the spread of the pandemic, and they'd uphold the law. And that rational relation test, that's just the standard for government enforcement. Private entities like businesses and private schools, they don't have to prove a thing. They can make and enforce rules for both their employees and their patrons, so long as they're not discriminatory. In other words, if a store can require you to be fully clothed when they serve you, they can absolutely make you wear a mask during a pandemic. This is the kind of information I think students want and need right now. straightforward answers to all these new legal questions that keep coming up. You know, I've always felt so lucky to be able to do what I do. Almost every day, I get to help young people understand how the law affects their everyday lives, and I show them how their actions can have serious consequences. I think right now, that's more important than ever. I'd love to virtually visit your school and teach your students about these critical topics.